Well, look, it's lovely to have you back. It's fantastic. Let's first of all talk about Taskmaster, which, as we record this, the final episode has just gone out. So welcome, spoiler alert, to the champion of Taskmaster room.
Thank you.
You're not yet in the champion of champions.
No. I think that film's at some point in the medium-term future.
Yeah, it's quite soon.
Yeah.
And then we're only one person away from champion of champions
yes.
then, which I think will be a very boring show.
Really, I see that as the logical endpoint of all civilization. Actually, that show. So, yeah.
Well, it's a lot of people who try a bit too hard and aren't really that funny.
Yeah.
So you need I think if champion of champions, I will be the stupid one.
Right.
The incompetent one, but I don't think it'll happen. I think they should do a World Cup of Taskmaster, don't you?
Oh yeah, that would be.
I think you should, because there's so many all around the world.
Well, yeah, and you can have the adult winner against the children's winner now as well. We've got a pensioners version coming out, I think.
Yeah. How was it for you? How was the experience? This is Reddit. Someone on Reddit gave you a lovely review. I don't know if you saw this. Right. You were absolutely the funniest contestant this series, and it shows how non-comedians can be funnier than everyone else.
Well, that's it. You've got to set expectations low, and you can exceed them. That's the key.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's interesting that we'll talk about that later, but I guess some people will think of you as a cricket commentator and not realise that there's got a whole 35 years of comedy behind there as well.
Yeah, well, I've had audiences at my comedy gigs who've not been aware that I've been a comedian by the end of them. So, yeah.
It was. I haven't watched the whole series, but I've seen a good chunk of it. It's difficult to watch it again. You might find this after you've done it. I find it quite sort of melancholic to watch it.
Really?
Because you sort of feel like, I'd want to be doing it.
So you're like you see retired sports people,
yeah, exactly,
with that slight bitterness of the passage of time in their eyes. Think, it was much better in my day.
Well, I'm really like that on House of Games, because House of Games, I think I've been champion of champions on that as well. I don't like to mention it, but it did just come up organically, right? Yeah. I think you mentioned it, but I watch that now, and my memory is visibly like going, right. I keep on forgetting people's names even as I'm talking to them, and I'm aware that if I get called back in to do another House of Games, I'm going to be absolutely dog shit, because you've got to be even in those few years. So I do know that feeling.
You could retire. Borg retired from tennis at 26. You could be the Beyond Borg of House of Games.
Yeah. Well, they seem to have retired me from all of these shows. I did Taskmaster, and then no one ever asked me to do TV ever again. I don't know what happened. I enjoyed. You were great. You were a fantastic contestant, because I think you were very witty and very funny, and you'd come in with a funny joke in the studio bits, but also you're kind of fully committed, I think, to the ethos of it. Just for the dressing up, not just in the task, but in the studio as well. There's a lot of dressing up.
Yeah, I'd assume more people would be doing that, but it was just me, really. But yeah, so I think it wasn't every episode. Maybe half the episodes I had either a costume or the one I had a boxing glove. I can't even remember why. Anyway, but I think that's. But I think you have to just, as you say, fully commit to the humiliation of it, and embrace. I mean, there's a line in Band of Brothers, in a harrowing battle scene, in which I can't remember the exact wording, but something like, the only way to get through this is to accept that you're already dead. And so Taskmaster, I guess, you have to accept that you are already completely humiliated, and then it becomes easier to take that.
Yeah, so, I think you've got to sort of slightly enjoy being humiliated. Which I
realise I have just basically said Taskmaster is like the Allied invasion of Europe.
It is.
I don't know if it works at any other level or not, but
I think harder.
Much harder.
Because you have very little chance of dying halfway through and then having a rest. I like the snooker. The snooker that seemed to confuse Greg. You came in dressed as a snooker player.
Yeah. Well, snooker players, they're very good at keeping focus under pressure, aren't they? So I was trying to get myself in the right mindset to compete at the highest level of Taskmaster. And, you watch snooker players, they're sitting in their chairs, there's nothing they can do. There's an element of that with Taskmaster, isn't there? Yeah. You can't affect what other people do. You've got to sit there with your cue and your glass of water. So I thought that would help me get in the right frame of mind. And as it was, I think it just confused people. But
well, it was Ed Gamble on the Taskmaster podcast said that you meeting for your team task was the second most awkward meeting of a team, and I think mine was the first. He didn't say what the first was. But I think when Daisy May Cooper, not knowing who I was and thinking I was a man who just walked in off the street, I think might have been the most awkward. Yeah. But it was a sublime moment, right? Wasn't it? Because
it was. Yeah.
Take us through that.
Well, we'd never met. I didn't know who the other contestants in the series were. I didn't know which of them would be in the team on the team task day. But I'd never met either Emma City or Babatunde. So it was. And that's quite a weird way to meet people with a... I mean, it's not often that you meet someone for the first time with a fucking camera crew surrounding you.
And you're dressed in full cricket whites.
Yes, that also needs to be factored in. So
he said... Well, I love that. He said, why are you dressed like that, didn't he? He said, why are you dressed like that? Yeah. And then Emma City come in dressed as a sort of 1920s detective. And he obviously thought, fuck, he obviously didn't know anything about the show, I think, before he came into it.
Well, I don't know, Matt, but I just assumed everyone would be wearing cricket kit, and I was a bit surprised when
was because I think Ed was saying this was all kind of quite vintage cricket gear.
The clothes were new, but the pads were 1930s,
right?
Endorsed by Frank Woolley of Kent in England.
Right.
The gloves, I'm not sure exactly, but I think they were at least 60 years old. Right. They're old horsehair ones, and they were falling apart. I mean, if you watched, you could probably tell. If you wanted to know exactly the order in which the tasks were filmed, if you look at how much padding there is in my gloves, because it was gradually falling out during the course of the series, and the bat was 1930s.
Yes.
So, but it just seemed the logical thing to do.
It did seem logical, obviously, to do
that. If you're going to wear cricket,
again, see, I didn't think about this, but you could potentially just, my choice of costume came from what I had. You said you're going to have two spares of everything in case you get dirty or anything. So I just chose the stuff that I had two of. That was literally my thinking. Yeah. But if with a cricket bat with a helmet, you can maybe get an advantage in some tasks with these. You could have like knives and you could have all sorts of toolkit in there.
Generally, don't take a knife out onto a cricket pitch.
No, it's been
a while since you played, I think, is it?
Did you have a box?
I had a box.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I did. The box definitely that did come in handy. I can't remember which one. The helmet came in handy in the task when we had to balance tennis balls on a bit of drainage pipe on the cow. Then to move without touching the tennis balls, but so we couldn't touch them with anything. I can't remember, it was soft or floppy or something.
Right.
So we filled up the cricket helmet with tennis balls. Right. And that gave us the key speed advantage. In the end, Jack and Rosie got penalised something like 120 hours for the amount of tennis balls that fell on the floor. So it proved not to be. But it felt at the time like that could be absolutely critical. And that might be the lesson of that is always wear full cricket kit.
Full cricket.
Be prepared.
Or maybe just at all sporting. Maybe just
all the kit from all the sports.
And every tool you could possibly have on a tool bait. It would be good. It was a very exciting, again, quite an exciting end. Did you think that you'd blown it at the end? Did you know you were okay?
I wasn't completely sure.
Right.
So it came, because they don't keep you up. You don't get the scores through the show. So I sort of knew the score going into the last show. But then the last task, for those if you've not seen it, there was a new thing this series where if you put on the hot dog costume, you got double points. And I thought, and they explained, and that was on day one of filming. And I thought, well, it'd be quite funny to save that for the very last task of the series in the studio. So I did that, thinking that I'd be miles behind and it wouldn't make any difference. As it was quite close. And then they said, well, you get 5 points if you win and nothing else.
Yes.
and my strategy was blown out of the water cruelly.
I mean, it could have made a huge difference. In fact, if Jack had played it, I don't know what happened with his hot dog costume when he wore it, but if he'd have got double points and then won, right? If he'd saved it to the last.
I can't remember how his hot dog went.
I mean, it's a weird series because he didn't seem like he was trying very hard, and he came second. Emma City won 4 of the episodes and came third. I mean, that's kind of how close it was.
It just shows that we live in a cruel universe, Richard.
How many episodes did you win?
Justice. I won 3, I think.
Okay, that's...
Yeah. So, I feel I'm justified.
Yeah.
And, see, if it had been done like the Olympics, like gold, Emma City's 4 goals would have put her top of the table. But
there we go. So it's a fun thing to do, right? It's a lovely thing to be involved with.
Yeah.
And I think you've played it. It'll be interesting. You're on tour, so we'll see immediately in your sales whether you get the Taskmaster bounce or whether you get the Richard Herring slight decline in audience.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to get a bit of both, actually. Yeah.
Lose some of your ardent fans who've been with you for years and get a lot of people who are going to be confused when you don't turn up. You're going to wear the cricket stuff in the tour?
No, the cricket, I'm not wearing cricket stuff in the tour.
No.
But
people are going to be disappointed
in the tour.
Are there?
Yeah.